It's a Tuesday evening, and you're standing at the grocery checkout watching the numbers climb, and somewhere between the potatoes and the tomatoes, the thought crosses your mind. The same one that's crossed a million minds this year. Maybe I should just grow this myself. A little garden out back. Fresh food, free food, money saved. How hard could it be? And then comes the second thought, right behind it, the one that stops most folks cold. But would it actually be worth it? Would a garden really put food on the table? Real food, weighed in pounds? Or is it just a hobby that costs more than it gives? How much can a person actually grow? And that's an honest question, and it deserves an honest answer, a real one with real numbers in it, not a daydream. I want you to stop and think about this for a second, because here's the trouble. Nobody ever gives you the honest answer. One crowd tells you a garden will feed your family and save you thousands. And they're selling you something usually. Another crowd tells you it's a waste of time and the store is cheaper. And they've never grown so much as a radish. The truth sits in between, and it's more interesting than either story. So today, I'm going to give it to you straight. Real numbers from a real first-year garden, weighed to the ounce and priced against the store. And then the honest picture of what a practiced family garden becomes, years on. Both halves, no dressing on either one. There was a time every family knew this reckoning by heart because every family kept it. The garden wasn't a question, it was the pantry. And folks knew what a row of potatoes gave back the way you know what's in your wallet. That knowing, what the ground actually yields and what it costs and when it pays, got lost when the gardens did. Let me hand it back to you today with the honest arithmetic attached. Let me tell you who I am. My name is Jacob Miller. I'm an Amish farmer out in the Holmes County settlement here in Ohio, and my wife is Rebecca. Now, the title asks how much food we grow in a year, and I'll answer that honestly before we're done. But I want to start somewhere better, with the honest ledger of a beginner, because that's where you'd be starting, and you deserve to know what a first year truly looks like, not the daydream. There's a young woman across the ocean in England who kept her very first garden in a tiny patch, about 15 square meters, call it the size of a small bedroom. And she did something I admire more than a big harvest. She weighed every last thing she grew, priced it against the store, counted every penny she spent, and told the whole truth about it, including the part most folks hide. That's the realest answer to this question I know of, so we'll walk her year first. And then I'll tell you what changes when the years stack up. Let's get into it. Before we get into it, if you like learning the old ways of doing things, do two small things for me. Tap that like button down there. It helps this little channel more than you'd ever guess. And subscribe so you can keep learning right alongside Rebecca and me. That's all I'll ask. Now, let's do some honest counting. Here's how it'll go. First, the little first-year garden and everything it grew, weighed out. Then the honest ledger, what it was worth, what it cost, and the truth about the first year that nobody says out loud. Then why the first year always looks like that. Then what changes in the second year and after. Then the honest answer to the title. What a practiced family garden really gives in a year. And last, the harvest you can't weigh at all. And that one is the most important of all. So here's the garden. A beginner's patch, 15 square meters, a little bedroom's worth of ground, raised beds, first year, and by her own cheerful admission, she had not the faintest idea what she was doing when she started. Mind that as we go. First year, small ground, no experience. And here is what that little patch gave her, weighed out exact, 11 pounds of cucumbers. 5 kilos of them off that tiny ground. A fine, steady crop. Nearly 11 pounds of zucchini, the courgettes, as they call them over there, just short of 5 kilos. 16.5 pounds of potatoes. 7.5 kilos of good honest spuds, first try. 6.5 pounds of carrots, 3 kilos. And here's an honest note she made that I love. Her purple ones all died on her. That's gardening. Something always dies, even in a good year, and an honest ledger says so. About 2.5 pounds of tomatoes. A modest showing, and no shame in it. Tomatoes are fussier than folks think in a cool, gray country, and a first-year hand rarely gets the best of them. They'll come to her in time. 2.5 pounds of shallots, 25 bulbs, and a good pound of garlic. The storing crops, the ones that keep. a couple pounds of spring onions, and then her champion crop, 22 full pounds of onions, 10 kilos of them, her best of everything, and a crop that stores for months. Added up in that tiny first-year patch, a bedroom's worth of dirt, mined, run by a rank beginner who says herself she hadn't a clue what she was doing, put out somewhere around 70 pounds of real, honest food. Cucumbers for the table all summer, onions and potatoes and garlic that keep for months in the pantry. Not a daydream, not a boast, weighed on a scale, crop by crop. Now hold that number in one hand, because here comes the other half of the ledger, and it's the part that matters more. Now, she did the thing I wish every gardener would do. She took every crop, weighed it exact, went and priced that same amount of vegetables at the local store, and added up what her whole harvest would have cost to buy. The answer, about 64 pounds, British money, of vegetables. Call it a modest grocery run or two. That's the true market worth of everything that little garden grew in its first year. And then she counted the other column, what she spent. And here's the truth, told straight the way she told it. The compost alone cost more than the whole harvest was worth. And then about the same again for the lumber to build the raised beds. And then the tools, and then the seeds. So, did she save money in her first year? No. She lost money, a fair bit of it, and she said so, plainly, with her whole harvest laid out proud on the table beside the admission. Now that right there, is the most honest thing I've heard from a gardener in years, and I'd shake her hand for it. Because near everybody who makes it past year one quietly forgets that first ledger ever existed, and near everybody selling you the garden dream never mentions it at all. And so every new gardener who loses money their first year thinks they've failed at something everyone else succeeds at, when the truth is they've done exactly what everyone does. So let it be said plain, once, right here. Most first-year gardens lose money. Hers did. Mine would have, if my father hadn't already owned the tools and the ground and the knowing. Most do. And here's the thing I need you to hear next before you close this video and give the whole idea up. That is not the end of the story. It's the beginning of it. And it's exactly how it's supposed to go. Look again at where her money actually went, because there's a pattern hiding in that ledger. And once you see it, the whole picture changes. The harvest was worth 64 pounds, and the money went to compost, lumber for the beds, tools, seeds. Now ask yourself, which of those does she have to buy again next year? Near enough none of it. The beds are built. That lumber stands for years. The tools are bought. A good spade and fork last a lifetime. Mine were my father's. The garden's begun. What she bought in year one wasn't really groceries at all. It was the farm. She wasn't overpaying for vegetables. She was buying once the little machine that grows them. And the machine came with 70 pounds of food thrown in. So year two, the ledger turns. Same beds, same tools, nothing to build. And the two costs that do come back every year, those are the very ones I've spent this whole channel teaching you to make free. Compost, her biggest cost of all, is exactly the thing your kitchen scraps and leaves and weeds make for nothing once you've a heap going. And seeds, save them off your own best plants come fall, the way I've shown you, and you'll never buy a packet again. So the practiced gardener walks into year two with the beds built, the tools in the shed, the compost cooking for free out back, and an envelope of saved seed, and grows the same 70 pounds and more for next to nothing. And more, because now she knows what she's doing. The first year buys the farm. Every year after, the farm pays you. Now to the title's question, how much do we grow in a year? And I'll answer it honestly, which means I'll not hand you some grand exact number dressed up as a statistic, because every family, every acre, and every season is different, and I'd be making a figure up to impress you. That's not how we do things here. But I'll tell you plainly what a practiced family garden becomes after the years stack up, and you can judge the size of it yourself. It becomes the pantry, not a hobby off to the side of the household, but a working part of it, the way a well or a wood pile is. Spring puts in the onions and potatoes and all the rest, larger plantings now, in ground that's been fed with compost for years and grows richer every season instead of poorer, which is the quiet opposite of what money does sitting in a store. Summer feeds the table outright. You near stop buying vegetables at all from July on, and the kitchen fills with the smell of Rebecca's canning as the beans and tomatoes and pickles go into jars by the dozen, shelf on shelf. Fall brings the digging and the hauling. Potatoes and onions and carrots and squash laid down in the cellar by the bushel, apples in the barrels, the shelves above them lined with everything summer put by. And then winter comes, the garden sleeps under the snow, and the family eats out of that cellar and off those shelves clear through to spring, from ground we already own, with seed we saved ourselves, fed with compost that costs nothing. The better part of what this family eats in a year comes up out of that ground. That's the honest size of it. Not a number on a scale, but a cellar you can stand in. And a grocery bill worn down to the things a garden can't grow. And hear this. The only road between her first year and that cellar is years. The same beds built once, the same tools, the compost heap growing, the seeds saved, the knowing deepening season on season. She's already on the road. Her 64 pounds is what the first mile looks like. Now here's the last thing she counted after all the weighing. And it's the part I'd have you hold on to longest, for she named 2 harvests that never touched her scale. The first, she learned. A whole year of learning how plants grow, what they want, what kills them, what the seasons ask. She started knowing nothing and ended knowing a garden's worth. And knowing, once you've got it, is the one crop that never spoils, never gets eaten up, and comes back bigger every single year you use it. Ask her in 5 years what that first losing year was worth. And the second, and I love this one, she said she'll never look at food the same way again. Now when she buys vegetables at the store, she appreciates them because she's seen, start to finish, what time and work and weather sit inside a single onion. And when she eats what she grew herself, she tastes all of it. A person who has grown their own food is never again a person who takes food lightly. And I'd call that a harvest worth more than the whole 70 pounds. And this is why the honest ledger is the most important thing in this whole video. Weigh everything, count everything, write down what you spent and what you grew, the losses and the dead purple carrots and all, not to shame yourself with a bad first year, but because the honest count is what turns 1 year's stumbling into the next year's knowing. The gardener who keeps a true ledger gets better every season. The one who keeps a flattering one stays a beginner. Count it all and count it honest. Let me run it back for you plain. A rank beginner on 15 square meters in her first year grew about 70 pounds of real weighed food, cucumbers and zucchini and potatoes and carrots and tomatoes and shallots and garlic and a champion crop of onions, worth 64 pounds at the store. And she spent more than that getting started, on compost, lumber, tools, and seed, and lost money and said so honestly. But near everything she bought, she never buys again. The first year buys the farm, and the farm then pays you, especially once the compost is free from your own heap and the seed is saved from your own plants. Years on, that same road leads to where a practiced family garden stands, a full cellar, shelves of jars, and the better part of a year's eating grown at home. And underneath all of it, the 2 harvests that never touch a scale, the knowing and the appreciating, and the honest ledger that turns each year into the next one's teacher. That's the whole true answer. Now let me tell you why you've never heard the question answered straight before. Because there's no money in the honest answer, from either side. The folks selling seeds and kits and courses need you dreaming that year one will feed your family and save you a fortune, so they'll not mention the startup ledger. And the store, well, the store is happiest of all if you try it. Lose money the first year the way everyone does. Decide the whole thing's a fool's errand and come back to the checkout line for the rest of your life. An honest reckoning, it costs you the first year and it pays you every year after, sells nothing to nobody. It's only true. So nobody says it, and most folks quit at exactly the moment the garden was about to turn. And here's the honest math, one more time, boiled to the bone. Year 1, 70 pounds of food, a lost ledger, a built farm. Year 2 and after, the same beds, the same tools, free compost off your own heap, free seed out of your own envelope, and the harvest climbing as the soil and the gardener both get better. The store's price for vegetables goes up every single year. Your garden's price goes down every single year, toward nothing. Let those two lines run a few seasons and see which one you'd rather stand on. So let me be straight with you about the title, the way I always am. How much food do the Amish grow in a year? I'll not insult you with an invented number weighed to the pound. I didn't weigh last year's cellar, and any figure I gave you would be a guess wearing its Sunday clothes. What I can tell you honest is this: a practiced family garden years in grows the better part of what the family eats. A cellar full, a wall of jars, a grocery bill cut to the quick. And it does it on ground, tools, seed, and compost that stopped costing money years ago. And what I can prove you, numbers and all, is the first mile of that road. 70 pounds of food off a beginner's 15 square meters, honestly weighed, honestly priced, and honestly paid for. Start there. The cellar comes later, and it comes surer than you think. So here's what I'd have you do this week. 2 things, and neither one is planting. First, if you're thinking of starting a garden, sit down and write the honest ledger before you begin. What the beds and tools and compost and seed will cost you this first year. Look at that number and make peace with it, knowing now what it's really buying. Not this year's vegetables, but the farm that grows every year's after. And second, get yourself a little notebook and a kitchen scale, and promise yourself you'll weigh and write down every single thing your garden gives you this season, the way she did. That honest count, kept faithfully, will teach you more than any video I could ever make you. And here's the sweetest part: give the little ones the scale and the notebook, and make them the keepers of the ledger. Let them weigh every basket that comes in from the garden. There's no child alive who doesn't love working a scale. And write the numbers down in their own hand and add up the summer as it goes. They'll learn their arithmetic without ever knowing they're doing schoolwork, but they'll learn something bigger too, watching those numbers grow year over year while the money spent shrinks, that good things compound, that patience pays, and that the truest accounts are the honest ones, losses and dead purple carrots and all. That's how the old knowing comes back. Not out of a book, but one weighed basket, one honest notebook at a time. Now I'd love to hear from you. Tell me down in the comments. Have you ever weighed a season's harvest and done the honest math on it? What did your first year really cost you? And when did your garden turn the corner and start paying you back? Share your honest ledger down there with the rest of us. The losses too, for those teach more than the wins. Those true reckonings slip away when nobody writes them down, and I read everyone. So the next time somebody asks you, or you ask yourself, whether a garden is really worth it, you'll have the honest answer: whole. It cost you the first year. That's true, and don't let anyone sell you otherwise. But that first year isn't buying vegetables. It's buying the farm, the beds that stand, the tools that last, the heap that feeds the ground for free, the seed that renews itself, and the knowing that compounds inside you season after season. And at the far end of that road stands a cellar full of food you grew on ground that costs you nearly nothing, while the store's prices climb on without you. The good Lord made the ground so that it pays back patience with abundance. He only asks that you give it the first year and keep an honest count. So start small, count it all, keep at it, and grow more than you need, so you can share the harvest with the people you love.